Samantha was sitting next to her mother and was frightened by how quickly the wagon was going. Her daddy was scaring her as he was shouting for them to stay down. The two of them were in the wagon bed, behind various boxes her daddy was planning on selling at the village. She was feeling confused because her parents told her that traveling with other merchants would mean that people wouldn't attack them. Now they were trying to get away from evil men who were shooting arrows at them. "Damn those Lunar Empire soldiers," her daddy shouted out as he whipped the horses to go faster. "Father, they're getting closer and I'm about ready to run out of bolts," shouted Samantha's older brother, Jake. Her father started to swear after hearing Jake. Looking back at him, her father yelled out, "Start throwing out the boxes and try to trip those Empire scum. We're going to need to make this wagon lighter if we're going to make it to the village. We just need to make it to the village. There's an outpost in the village, so they will be able to handle these pieces of shit." A bolt suddenly struck close to where her mother's leg was. Even though they were huddling and trying to make themselves a small target, they were almost able to hit her mother. Her mother screamed in fright after seeing how close the bolt lodged itself into the back of the wagon. "Mommy, I'm scared," Samantha cried out to her mother, burying her face into her mother's arm. Her mother patted her head and tried to say in a strong voice, "It'll be alright, my baby. Daddy will get us to the village and we'll be safe." From the way her mother was talking, she could tell that they were probably going to be caught by the bad men. She cried, not wanting to think about what was going to happen. Samantha felt a sudden lurch as the wagon suddenly weaved. "What are you guys doing?" her father yelled out. She heard a voice call out belonging to one of the other merchants. "I'm sorry, Carl. We have to think of our family." "Stop it! You're going to make the horses trip if you keep tossing your boxes," her daddy tried to reason with them. There was another lurch of the wagon as it probably tried to dodge another box the merchants were throwing. Just as she thought they were okay, she heard her dad yell out, "Brace yourself!" and felt the wagon tip over. It felt like the world had suddenly flipped upside down, and all of them were flung out of the wagon. Her mother held on to her as she suddenly felt the two of them hit the grassy ground. They slid several feet before finally stopping. The entire world felt like it was spinning out of control, and her whole body hurt. Samantha didn't know how long she laid there, but she heard her family calling out to one another. "Baby, are you alright?" She heard her mother's voice, but could only make out a couple of words, filling in the rest. "Mommy, what happened?" She tried to speak, but felt like her mind was full of wool. The world was starting to stop spinning, and as she got up, she saw her brother and father holding a sword. The bad men that were chasing after them were slowly approaching them on their horses. "Seems like all of them survived," yelled out the man in the front, while the other men were laughing. "I was worried that I was going to have to fuck a corpse today." This got the other men to laugh louder. She couldn't understand why they were such evil people. "It's going to be okay. Mommy will protect you," her mother said to her. The arms that held her were shaking in fear, or maybe that was her. "Molly, Jake and I will hold him off. You need to take Samantha and run to the village," her daddy yelled back at her mother. "Tom, I won't leave you," she cried out. "Damn you, woman! For once in your life, will you just do what I tell you? We'll be okay, and we will see you in the village," her daddy screamed out. "Mother, please, for all that is pure in this world, listen to what Father is saying. We will see you in the village. You can't let these savages have Samantha," Jake tried to reason with her. Samantha felt the teardrops fall on top of her head as her mother started to cry and began to get up. She stumbled for a second, and when Samantha looked, she saw a large patch of blood on her mother's skirt. Her mother turned her around and looked straight into her eyes and said, "Samantha, your mommy, daddy, and Jake love you very much. Can my baby be a big girl for mommy?" Her mother was sobbing with tears streaming down. "Can you? my big girl? I need you to run towards the village. The strong knights will protect you. Listen to mommy, okay? We'll see you at the village after Daddy and Jake beat the bad men. Shaking her head, Samantha yelled, No, mommy, I don't want to go. I want to stay here with everyone. Samantha knew that her mother and everyone was lying, and if she left, then she would be alone in the world. Who the fuck are you? One of the men in the back yelled out. Both Samantha and her mother looked back to see what was happening. Behind the evil men, there was a pretty carriage with a scary dragon in front. Samantha was terrified that this was another evil person that was with the wicked men. In the stories, knights would be riding on pretty white horses, not on scary dragons. When the carriage stopped, everyone was looking at this carriage. Slowly, a door opened and out came a beautiful lady in a pretty maid outfit. It looked like she was holding the door open and bowing her head, her back towards them. A man, who looked a little older than her brother, came out wearing weird clothes. Walking a little bit away from the carriage, the man looked around and acted like he was coming in for a picnic, just enjoying the beautiful weather. How could the man not see the bad men with swords right there? Hello there, the man called out to all of them, looking completely relaxed. Behind him, two additional ladies came out. One was wearing leather outfits, while the other was just dressed in a beautiful dress. An additional lady came out, but she looked like she was just a regular village lady, like her mother. Standing behind them were three pretty maids standing in a line. Maybe they did come for a picnic, Samantha thought to herself. Looking up at her mother, she asked, Mommy, are those bad men going to kill the pretty ladies? Her mother didn't say anything and just held her closer. Whoa, those are some lovely looking ladies you got there, the bad man in front yelled out. Look a bit lost. How about you leave behind those lovely looking ladies and get back into your fancy carriage and be on your way? The man started to laugh and said, I'm having appalling luck with people today. First, I go to a village that treats people like crap, and now I'm dealing with a stereotypical evil soldier. Is there any way you could be more cliché? The bad men didn't look happy at the man laughing at them, and all of them turned towards him, holding their swords menacingly. I try to be a gentleman, but I guess we're going to need to treat this noble brat a lesson. Make sure you don't hit the women. I get first dibs on all of them, and the rest of you can share after I'm done. You're so generous, Captain, one of the men yelled out, amongst the cheering of the other men. Aside from the village lady, none of the people standing next to the carriage looked frightened. Samantha looked confused, since there were so many bad men, but there was only one man. Jake, we need to help those people out, her daddy told her brother. Getting his sword ready, Jake said, Yes, father. Without any indication, the lady in leather suddenly made a big sword appear, and she jumped at the bad men. Swinging her big sword, the bad men were killed one by one. Sometimes, when the lady swung her sword, she would also cut the horses in half and blood would spray out everywhere. What are you doing? Hurry up and stop her, she's just one woman, the leader shouted at the other bad men. The lady kept killing the bad men, bathing the grass in blood until it looked like a small lake of blood had formed. Samantha's father and Jake just stood there, looking stunned, no longer trying to help. Even though her brother was very strong with the sword, Samantha didn't think Jake could beat that woman. When the captain was killed by the beautiful lady, she made her sword disappear and walked back to the man. The man kissed the beautiful lady and then walked towards her father and brother. Before he reached the blood, he waved his hand and made the blood disappear. Jake and her father put away their swords, and her mother and Samantha walked slowly to rejoin them. When her father looked back at them to make sure they were okay, he saw her mother's injury. Her mother looked very pale and leaned heavily on her. Samantha was a big girl, so she tried her best to support her mother. When the man came closer, followed by the pretty ladies, he said, "Oh my, that looks pretty serious. If you don't get her some medical attention quickly, I don't believe she's going to make it. I hope one of you is a doctor, considering how the nearest village is still a ways away and too far for her. At the rate she is bleeding, I estimate she'll pass away in less than an hour, so I advise you to act with haste." "My lord, please, would you be willing to take my wife in your carriage to the village? If it's payment, I have money to pay. I beg you, my lord." Samantha's father sobbed, pleading to the young lord. The young lord tilted his head as if considering it, looking as if this whole situation was a hassle, and coldly said, "I don't feel like doing that." Her father dropped to his knees and pressed his forehead to the ground and begged, "My lord, I will do anything if you can save my wife. Please." Looking bored by the spectacle of her father kneeling in front of him, he simply said, "How about I do this instead?" and just raised his hand and snapped his finger. Her father looked up in confusion and looked about to ask the young lord what he meant, when her mother suddenly exclaimed, "Honey, I'm healed!" Her father, Jake, and Samantha looked at her mother and wondering what she was talking about, and saw that the wound on her leg was gone. They just stared at the place that was dripping with blood and only saw her clean clothing. All of them looked at the young lord, who was smiling and calmly said, "Isn't this a better solution?"